In the United States, we are allowed rights. We are allowed free speech, the right of and from religion, our Miranda rights, and many more. Technically, we are allowed to do whatever we want with these rights as long as it doesn't serve as harmful to others. We are bound to these rights, and with them, we can do whatever we want with our lives. But what about how we want to end it? My name is Katie Craver, and before I reveal my topic to you, I would like to tell you all a story. When my mom was married to her first husband in the 80s, it was discovered that he had developed AIDS. Slowly, my mom's husband was dying, and at the time there was no medication. Lying in his hospital bed, so weak that all he could do was groan in pain, he communicated with the nurse that he wanted to undergo assisted suicide, knowing that there was no chance of survival from his deadly disease. Secretly, the nurse agreed to what he wanted and was able to end his suffering in a peaceful way and under his consent. Now, as you can tell from my story, you can probably understand that I would like to talk to you all today about physician-assisted suicide and my stance on it. Today, there are diseases all around the world, such as late stages of cancer, Alzheimer's, AIDS, leukemia, heart disease, ALS, and more. What all of these have in common is that they can be terminally ill conditions and that someone can very much die from it in their late stages. Stated by the National Healthcare Decisions Day, 42% of Americans have had a friend or relative suffer from a terminal illness. That's almost half of the population. But my stance on this matter, which you're probably wondering, is that I am for assisted suicide. But what I would like to do is to show or to prove to my audience why I believe that it should be more accepted into the United States. My first reason being that it gives a terminally ill patient with no chance of survival an effective way of ending their suffering at the cost, and all while the cost of healthcare being very much reduced. It serves as a quick and painless solution to the patient's suffering. However, I do believe that assisted suicide should go under set regulations that need to be followed word by word in order for it to work correctly. Stated by Transplant International, euthanasia has to be required by a conscious patient suffering from an irreversible affliction, inducing physical and or psychological suffering. With no hope for improvement or for rapid spontaneous death, a request for euthanasia has to be written by the patient or by his or her representative, who has no interest in the patient's death. Patient's general and psychiatric health status has to be confirmed by an external medical expert, and requests for euthanasia and its procedure itself have to be separated by 30 days at least. These set regulations allow doctors to make completely sure that the patient is truthful about their actions and that they are very sure on what they want to do, considering that's a very serious matter. With assisted suicide, the patient is able to decide on their own terms before the disease makes them unable to make their decision. With assisted suicide, it can give a terminally ill patient with little to no chance of survival an effective and quick way to end their suffering, a way that they can do it with a sense of dignity, allowing them to have consent on their own death before the illness takes it away from them. However, this is a very controversial topic, and we are very hesitant to allow people to assist in physician-assisted suicide. However, while we are so hesitant to assist on a terminally ill patient in suicide, we are not hesitant when it comes down to putting an animal down who is sick, injured, or maybe not given the adequate care. While this is not always the case every time, in our society we are more accepting of euthanizing a sick or injured animal. For example, farm animals and pets are euthanized every single day. Some of these reasons being that the animal has become sick, injured, is not given the correct money for health care or hospice care or surgeries. They just aren't given enough in order to live comfortably. Instead of letting the animal live for the rest of its days without proper treatment or medicine, we do what we are reluctant to do and we euthanize the animal. While this is never what we want to do, us pet owners know that sometimes it is for the best for us and for the animal, knowing that they no longer have to be in pain. When I look at this, I feel as though we are more compassionate with animals, allowing them to pass away when they are sick or when they are injured and when they cannot go on for much longer. My last two reasons why I believe that physician-assisted suicide should be more accepted in the United States is because of the large acceptance of a patient asking to not resuscitate them, and how a patient's body after death can be beneficial to other patients. Now, to start with Do Not Resuscitate, it is a form that someone can fill out, and it is if their heart stops beating or if they stop breathing, and that allows the person's wishes to be respected, and it lets the paramedics know that they do not want to be resuscitated back to life. I believe that this is important to talk about because while Do Not Resuscitate is highly accepted in the United States, assisted suicide is not very much accepted, and I would like to get more into that. As you can see from a picture that I'm going to pull up, assisted suicide is only legal in 7 states, and those include California, Colorado, Hawaii, Oregon, Vermont, Washington, Montana, and the District of Columbia, while the Do Not Resuscitate legal form is legal in every single state besides Missouri. I would like to talk about this because it really shows the difference in the acceptance between the two, while they are very much alike. Lastly, what I would like to touch on before I leave this speech is that, like a person who requests Do Not Resuscitate or assisted suicide, the body of the patient after death can be used to help other patients, with permission, of course, before the patient dies. After death, the patient's vital organs can be used and taken to save a patient that is in need of a transplant, say it be a stomach, a heart, the skin. It can be used to help several patients. Stated by Transplant International, organ donation after death demonstrates that organ harvesting after euthanasia may be considered and accepted for ethical, legal, and practical viewpoints in countries where euthanasia is legally accepted. This possibility may increase the number of transplantable organs and may also provide some comfort to the donor and his or her family, considering that the termination of the patient's life may somehow help another human being in need for an organ transplant. In conclusion, I want to advocate for assisted suicide in the United States because it is an effective way to end a terminally ill patient's suffering. And also, we allow the euthanasia of pets when they are sick or injured, while we do not do that for human beings. Because of the legal form Do Not Resuscitate is highly accepted, I feel like that is another reason why I need to point out why that is allowed, but assisted suicide is not allowed, even though they are very similar. And also, lastly, the body of the patient after death can be used to help other patients in need of an organ transplant. No one wants to die a slow death or become dehumanized from a disease. A person wants to die thinking of the people that they love and for all the things that they appreciate in life, including the right to end their life as the person as they were before it came too late. Thank you very much.